estate sale one day that I didn't know she was going to. Said, oh, by the way, I bought a piano.
So you have one?
Yeah, we want
You got an upright.
I do.
Oh, wow, nice.
Stevie, where'd y'all buy that one? Do you remember?
In our youthful years.
Because I bought my first one down at Bridges downtown.
With all our children. They
Would play?
wanted to take music and they did and.
But they didn't. It's dimmer in here.
I know, we'd have to hold hands. Does that have to be in the middle?
Need some candles.
That's why you some candles. That's
No
right.
candles, what else? Don't
That's
you
the
have
black
in the
paper
middle?
one.
Kaya is one of our frequent visitors.
Yes. Are you traveling or are you?
Well, not really. I travel to doctor's offices. There she is.
Katie!
Hey, Katie.
Join the seance. Katie's the next door. This is Sue. This is my Mars mom.
Laura, your mother. Oh, wonderful, from Michigan.
I think they just arrived yesterday when I was working outside, I think, a long time ago.
And there's Chris and Kaya, the family's all here.
The family's all here.
Hey, Kaya. Hey, Kaya.
Hey, Kate.
Hey, honoree.
I love the style. I just love
We were all met.
Honey, sure.
Are we ready?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. All right.
All right, I think
Someone got married.
if we can get the woman of honor to quit talking here, we'll be.
Good luck. Good luck.
All right, I think we're going to start. I believe most of us have met everybody. Some weeks ago, BB and I think Stan was the other conspirator here, said we ought to do some sort of simple leave taking of this house. BB's only been here 63 years, so we thought that it might be appropriate to do a little something to recognize that. And she asked me if I would preside over that. My name is Jimmy Moore. I think I've met most of you. I'm a family member. She and my father were brother and sister, and I'm also a retired United Methodist pastor, so they thought that.
He married us.
That's right.
Even if you did say the name wrong, right?
Williams? I don't know. We don't go there.
I think this is it's a really big event. It's also an emotionally, I think, loaded event. And BB, I was thinking the other day, one way of getting into this was I was recalling when we left Camp Glisson in 1991. I had served as the director. This is a Methodist camp outside of Dahlonega, and I'd been up there for about 6.5 years as the director. And prior to that, I had gone there as a camper and had been a counselor and had a lot of close friends from this community. And when we were leaving there we were coming into Decatur, and we had packed up and everything on. The last day I can still remember, Julie and our daughter Allison had gone in one car and they were heading out down the road, and our son Josh and I were in the second car, and we were going to follow not far behind. And we were about to start off, and I told Josh, I said, well, let's stop for just a minute. I want to go back in and walk through the house and make sure that we hadn't left anything. Well, I knew good and well we hadn't left anything, but it was just hard for me to walk out. I was 100% confident we were doing the right thing in moving from Dahlonega, though Josh to this day will disagree with that. But I was confident we were doing the right thing. But I can remember when we drove down that road, leaving that property, I thought my heart was going to break in two, because there were so many memories, so many people that were so important and whatnot. And it's just it's not an easy thing to do what you're doing. There's a lot involved in it. But one of the things that I wanted to do today, and this is where y'all are going to come in, and I want BB and Connie and Susan to kind of wait, and I'll call on them last. And I know different ones of us have got radically different histories with this house in terms of length of time and whatnot. But I wondered if people in this room would be willing to share some stories or memories, people, events, Judd the dog.
People aren't the job.
Anything that we remember that just would call to mind the life of this house. It's been a house that's been marked by wonderful hospitality and enormous love. There's also been loss in this house. All of these things that are part of life have marked this house. Imagine if the walls could talk, what would they say? Unless us, so I just want to open it, there's no order here. But I wonder if anybody, and then we'll call on you three in a minute to flesh it out a little bit more. If any of you would be willing to share some memory you have of this house.
Not everybody speak at once.
Yeah, give 'em
Well,
one.
we can't, we always have to think about Thanksgiving. And of course, we started that at Bent Tree, but, years ago. I remember sleeping on the sofa at Bent Tree because I was pregnant.
And Mountain House
And
that we had
Speedy
for a
couldn't
while.
figure out why I was sleeping so much. But ending up here, after y'all sell Bent Tree, but always Thanksgiving. Always a special time.
Well, and when I think of those Thanksgivings, of course, we've had some people die over the years, but Speedy was a big part of that. Our mother was a part of that at the beginning. Emily was a part of that, you know, all these people that were, you know, so they're all those kinds of family ties for those of us in there. So, all right, who else has a memory?
Well, my memories are not so much about the house as the whole neighborhood, because we grew up literally around the corner and lived half our life up at grandparents' house right at the top of the hill, and my parents moved eventually to 2 houses up next to Cindy's house, and so we grew up in this neighborhood. This was our paper route when I was in the 8th and 9th grade. We delivered papers around over here. So this house and the whole neighborhood is just kind of home when you think about going home. But like you say, this house has been, we've had so many dinners and just parties and Christmas and Thanksgiving and birthdays, and I remember as a little kid going upstairs with Connie and Susan and playing in the attic. That was just so much fun to be up there and kind of, it was like a fairyland or something, I'm not sure. But and my memory that I was going to share was with Judd. Judd was Cindy's dog that lived next door. I was 20 years old before I found out that wasn't BB and Speedy's dog, because he was always here, and every time we came over, he was here in the living room, asleep on the sofa or back in the bed or something. And I was pretty much an adult before I finally realized or found out that he actually belonged to Cindy and not BB and Speedy. So Judd was a great part of the neighborhood too.
I want to interrupt just a minute. I know I'm not supposed
Well,
to.
that's all right.
But
It's your house.
my husband had very peculiar hours, Chris, very similar to yours. And
Sorry, I
so
should have
he
turned the
said
phone.
that one night he came home, it was winter time, and he walked in the house and it was cold. It was obviously winter time, as I said. But anyway, he said the house was just really cold, and he walked through the house, and he said this door right here, which not many people know is the door, but there is a door right there, it was open. And he said that he came in, shut the door, looked around, and there was Judd laying on the sofa over there. This great big old dog sitting over there. And Speedy said, if that dog can bark, I would still be running. But Judd felt called upon to come into our house by any means he could at any time. Okay.
But share your story too about him sleeping outside your window for protection. I think that's a great story too.
Well, as I say, Spiegel's gone a lot of times at night, and before we even thought about a security system, anything, and the girls were very small at that time, and I guess in my my bedroom is fairly close to the ground, and I guess I didn't have sense enough to be afraid, but I did have a few moments when I thought, not real sure about these situations, but I would hear, especially in the fall, I would hear leaves crackling. And I knew Judd had taken his position right under my windows, and he just stretched out and went to sleep right there, and that was my security system.
That's great.
And now it's Katie.
I didn't ever even know about John. And here it was he was an important inhabitant of my current house.
Yes.
And now you have Kaya, which is our little dog
She's
from across the street. Anytime somebody comes up to the front door, she rar, 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 rar. Anytime somebody comes up BB's driveway, She and she's
My-
looking and
What
looking.
is it about you?
So she's protecting now.
She is protecting.
I need
Yes.
protection.
Tracks.
I said, we're,
Well-
we're gonna have to write into the contract of the house that
Yes.
Kai
Yeah,
come
yes.
over.
She thinks it's part of her house.
Yeah.
My
her
dad
territory.
saved Judd's life once when my mom and dad had just moved in up there. And Barron was the big
Baron.
We didn't have leash laws.
German Shepherd across the street, and my dad was out cutting the ivy up there on Saturday afternoon, and Barron came over and was just about to kill Barron. And my dad, Judd, and my dad took those clippers he was using and he whacked Barron on the, I don't know how Barron survived that attack, but he saved poor Judd's life and
And we all
killed Barron in the process.
Well, we had lots of baseball games out here, softball games, because there used to be 2 trees in the front yard. And so this was home base,
They were
first
bases.
base, second base, third base. And those trees, and you forget how beautiful the
Yeah.
pecan trees were. But they're gone too, haven't they, Mother? Big holes in the yard.
Could you help us?
I don't know, I don't remember.
I don't know.
Well, I've always said this street is one of the prettiest
It
streets
is.
in
This
the
is
city
rare.
in the spring and fall.
Yeah.
It's just with the dogwoods and azaleas and everything.
Well, I remember when I became part of your family here,
Yes, you are.
and Speedy would, we'd go to the football games,
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Go to Athens.
and he'd pack up the car, and he'd always be grumbling about something, which was Speedy. But I miss those times.
Yeah.
I miss, well, what attaches me to this house, I think, is the memories of you coming out with Speedy, asking if you forgot something. Asking him if he forgot something.
Oh, yeah.
That was always something you would do, and that was
On the
always
way.
something that stuck in my mind. It was very, very, very eventful, but it's been I don't think I've known someone who's been in a house so long as you have. Seriously, I mean that as a compliment. And it means a lot, because you didn't, you stuck a lot longer than people would think they'd stick here. And that's to your I think to your strength and your wisdom to know what you need for yourself, so I think that's very important to you.
And not only the same house, but the same neighborhood. That
Exactly.
you grew up a block away.
That's-
That's even more amazing.
Yes, I guess I'm one of the few people who's lived in 3 houses most of her life, and so, well, that's the way it is sometimes.
Yeah,
And
it's
this
pretty
one, and we talked about moving several times, and would really get into it and think, yeah, let's do it. And I don't know, somehow something always prevented it. There's just something always prevented it. I can't remember now why, but we decided, well, hey, we're here, and as people say it's paid for, let's just stay here. I said, well, okay, that's a good reason as I know of.
And he wanted to be close to his work too.
Oh, how true, how true.
Didn't want to have to wait on the train.
You
across the
know,
road.
well, the train, and that was before they built the overpass. And there were, this goes back way longer than I think many people here remember, but there were 2 very significant train wrecks that involved doctors. And they, unfortunately, both of them were killed. And so I think that made an impression on my husband too. He didn't want to be in a hurry because he may want to try to beat the train, but one didn't do that anymore after we had those 2 unfortunate experiences. So being close to the hospital was
And the other side of the tracks, that was,
on the other side of the tracks, yeah.
yeah. Important decisions.
Any other particular memories, events or people, or we'll come to you two in a minute.
This has just been a blessing to have BB across the street from me. We moved in, 2.5 years ago, I think,
Has it
almost
been that
3
long?
now. Almost 3, so I'm new to the neighborhood, and getting to know BB and the family has just been amazing. Like, I'm so lucky to have you here. I mean, I come and she worries about a lot of stuff, I worry about a lot of stuff, and we just talk. And it's amazing stuff we talk about. We have so much in common, but yet we're from totally different generations. Like, we talk about speed, and my husband, who's a chef, and the hours that they both worked, and like the roles we have to take on, and just, it's it's amazing the connection we have with that, and stuff we talk about, and it's been a true blessing, that, so. I'm very, very glad I bought the house, and we looked and we looked and we looked for a house.
Really?
And we saw the house and we just felt it and we did it, and my mom always says, you were here and it was the right house and it was the right person across the street, and
Aww.
it's the right place at the right time,
Mm-hmm.
even if you were struggling to look for a house and you thought you wanted to get in sooner, but, you know, this was the one at the right time. So.
We used to visit over at your house because Miss Sadie Lou Beasley
Yep.
was our kindergarten teacher.
That's
We
right.
used to go and visit her.
Little Bud.
Yeah.
And Little Bud. They had a dog named Little Bud. I can't remember what it was. It was little. Ugly little dog.
John, do you have it? I know you have some.
Yeah.
John behind the camera back there?
Yes, one with your husband too. Got two
Go
things.
for it.
You need a selfie stick.
Walk around in front of it.
I don't know why I thought about this, but 10 years ago, 12 years ago, Miss Beebe wanted a TV in her bedroom, so Gary, Susan's husband, got elected with me to run cable back there to that thing.
And it was a surprise.
Well, I'm not sure when it was because Speed was still alive, and Speed was a great doctor. But as far as handyman projects, not so much. And both me and Gary, we're both trying to tell Speed, we got this under control. We can do it. Please, sir, find something else to do, somewhere else to go. Because and his Speed was, he wanted to have his thumb in it and say, you know about this, you know what I'm talking about. And so, but the funniest thing was something about Gary needed some nails for something. And so he called up, because Gary was way in the back. He crawled up in the attic and all that stuff, put this wire. And he said, hey, John, I need some kind of nails, whatever. And Speed heard that. Even though he was down the stairs, he said, oh, I got those. And you do? He said, yeah, they're out in the garage. Now that's like saying, there's a tree in the forest. That forest right there, just pick out any tree you want. And so I looked at Gary, he looked at me like, okay. And so Speed insisted on, he had these nails out there. He wanted one of us to go out and we could just snap our fingers and find those nails. So anyway, long story short, we got the cable in, Gary got the cable in, got the thing done, everything was fine. The other thing that I remember, I don't know why, is, and you can refine this a little bit, but when we had the gathering of everybody, the whole families, they say, and it was catered by the varsity. Remember that one?
That was Connie's 40th birthday, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I think it was.
That was the reunion.
That was
though.
our family reunion.
Oh, the family.
We had varsity for my 50th birthday.
We had a lot of ours.
Just last week, wasn't it?
Anyway, but that was my remembrance of the varsity truck out there and
Yeah, that's right, we had a family.
the whole, everybody coming in, and so, anyway. Okay. That's it.
Mine is gonna be pulling me up the driveway, whoever buys the house. She turns up the driveway, my dog's gonna be pulling me up the driveway.
Better be sure they have doggy treats.
Yeah, the good ones too, the ones
The
that,
good ones.
yeah.
The good ones.
She knows right where they keep them right now, so.
Well, Susan, you were talking a little earlier about making out in here.
Yeah, we all.
Oh, sure,
Was that-
sure.
Was that
The
stand
Ancon.
adjourned? Was that,
Among others.
This was the date couch, right there.
Dee Dee, did you know that?
The date couch.
Some things is better not.
Better not. I was just curious.
Even at this late age here.
We
it's
did
not-
the don't ask, don't tell.
Tell,
deal.
exactly.
There you go. Well, I wonder if you two, in whatever way you want, if y'all would want to share anything about this house and what it means to you.
Oh gosh, there's just, I mean, it's the only house we've ever known.
I know.
And one of the good memories, of course, is Christmas and Daddy being on call, and Mother would have to close these little doors, French doors, and we'd have Christmas in here. And fire.
Close the doors
and she'd have to hold us back, till
Close
Daddy
the
got here
doors.
because we couldn't do it. till Daddy got
We
here.
had the tree in here.
Yeah.
And he would come in his bloody scrub suit, and we'd know he was here, and he'd come in with the old camera and the floodlights on top of the camera, you know, and it was like,
Ready for your close-up.
ready for our close-up, and we would just literally dive into the tree, and Mother would collapse on the couch, and I mean, there's just, there's too many. There's too many.
It's an unfair question.
They were
No,
going
it's not
through
an
the
unfair
things
question.
that we've done
It's all
just in
good.
this
It's all
room,
good.
you know, and as in all houses, but we were just looking at pictures. Susan had birthday parties, of course, here, lots of birthday parties, and I'm sure Stanley and y'all came to them. They had pogo sticks going back and forth. They put
Hula hoops.
hula
In the
hoops,
house.
pogo sticks. She was like, what, 5 or 6? I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's why the house is settled a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it settled a little bit. We had an old picnic table, which, we would set up in here with a fire in the wintertime and have hot dogs and.
And watch Bonanza on
Watch
Sunday
Bonanza,
night.
cause the TV was right there, cause it was the living room, you had one TV.
Y'all don't remember.
No, Daddy brought the TV in.
That's right, he
Yeah.
brought the TV. We used to have a TV in here, right?
We just had one.
And we had vent heat. There's a vent right over there.
Oh,
And
yes.
when
Oh,
it was
yes.
cold at night, Connie and I we had these big long nightgowns, and we come stand over them, and they woo.
It's the best feeling in the world.
And you'd run to your bed and jump in your bed, but
And right there, on that right there is where the record player used to be. The record's still in there. And, our real live record player that we had, you know, stereo, you know, big time. And that's where I bought my very first, not where, I played my very first Beatles record. And it was right there. That's when I heard the Beatles for the first time. I bought the record and brought it right back here.
Were you making it out at the same time?
No, I was just partying right there in the
Just
corner. I mean,
partying.
that was it. We couldn't go anywhere, we just had to play it right there. And, yeah, that was neat. And just everything in here, from parties to showers to, good Lord, I don't know how many parties. this
Y'all's
house has. Garden
parties.
clubs and meetings and Tai Chi classes and
you
yoga.
did yoga in here one time.
Yeah, just a great used house. And I think, Mother, would you share a little bit about the curtains in here?
Okay.
They're unusual, don't you think?
From Sunset Boulevard.
Did you order those from Rich's?
They came from Rich's
Rich's.
a long time ago.
There you go.
And, when we
They've
bought
never been
the place up at Bent Tree, we just sort of, well, we didn't know, we lived in this house, of course, but we did go up there a lot. And I sort of forgot about, and you're supposed to maybe change your your decor every 40 years anyway. And I just forgot about the curtains. I mean, I was busy having fun up at Big Tree and things like that. And then I came home and I realized, we need to do some, but I just never quite got around to it. So we still have the curtains that were made for here by Rich's.
Rich's is a big department store here. They're looking a lot like Rich's.
I don't even remember when.
You should be like Scarlett and make a dress out of it.
I know.
Yeah, I'm afraid the material might fall apart. So
They look great.
anyway,
Yeah, they're fine.
they are definitely.
Just don't
a part
touch
of
them.
my
That's right.
Don't touch them.
But of course, with me, there are so many memories. I think beginning the first one, now is a memory. Speed had considered, well, the reason he left Noonan, where he'd gone into practice about 5 years beforehand, at that time, and we talk about like 1947, and at that time, the doctors in Noonan did everything. I mean, you broke your leg, they set it, you had a baby, they delivered it, you had a heart attack, they took care of it, you know. And he went in, practiced with an older doctor who was to cover all this, and my husband was to do the OB and the surgery. But the poor old doctor died. He hadn't planned on it, but he died, and that left Speed with this very, very large general practice. And Speed he was just most unhappy. He said, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I just hope I don't kill somebody. And he said, I didn't train for this. So he told me he told me before we married that he was thinking about moving. And as it worked out, Kennestone had just opened, and we would come up to visit my parents, and he knew several of the doctors at Kennestone, and he would go up there and he would come back, and I could see him thinking, and an opportunity came up, and he was contacted by some of the doctors up there and said, now come on, just get on up here, this is a great opportunity, and just quit piddling around and just come on up here. And he did. He called me, I was somewhere that day, and said, we're moving to Marietta, but don't tell anybody. And I thought, okay. So, and then he did come on up and start get his office set up and everything. He was staying with my parents and coming home a couple of nights a week, and things had just gotten, oh gosh, the Christmas came, and I don't even remember that Christmas, but shortly afterwards, he came on up here and was working, quote unquote, and he said, called me and said, I bought a house. I said, oh, and what's it like? It's close to the hospital. I said, well, tell me that. It's close to the hospital. That's all he cared about. I mean, literally and truly, that's all he cared about. And so he said, and quite rightly, he said, if I'm going to practice OB, and at that time, single, he was not, didn't have a partner. And he said, I have to be close to the hospital. So this house was close to the hospital, and why not buy it? No need to tell my wife about it. I've talked to men, and they said, if I had done that, my wife would have shot me dead. I said, well, it just so happened, I was so desperate at that time, because I was in Newnan with a 15-month-old trying to sell a house, and it just didn't work. So we came on up here, and on Jimmy's birthday, we moved.
On Jimmy's
On
birthday.
February the 3rd, 1953. And so life began here in this house. And at that time, we did not have the large room on the back. It was just the back door led out of the kitchen. And it was okay until suddenly we realized that another baby was on the way. And so we thought about yeah, we had decided to wait for a couple of years to have one, but everybody knows how that is sometimes. So anyway, the last day of 53, Miss Susan arrived, and I brought her home from Kennestone Hospital to this house. So this is the only home that she's ever known until, of course, she married and has established other homes. Anyhow, I said I was desperate, big as these rooms are, and grateful as I am that they are big. Suddenly there were toys and baby stuff everywhere, and then in those days, ladies came calling in the afternoon sometime, and I had several ladies who called, and we just had to kick, a place to walk and sit. So we decided to add the back room, and that was one of the greatest things we ever did. But as far as, there are just so many memories. As I say, they have been good times, and Connie mentioned the pogo stick. Susan being born on December the 31st, as was Mr. Samuel here. Not the same year, but the same day. I said,
Much older.
He's older than I. Now I'm old.
I am old.
but I said to myself, I said, well, this child, even though she's born on a holiday, will always have a birthday party. I will make that decision. And so we had birthday parties, and sometimes the weather was really bad, and we had birthday parties in here. And I have a movie, one of Susan's best friends with a poker stick, jumping on a poker stick. And Connie was watching it, and she said, "Mama, did you lose your mind?" I said, "Yes, I lost it several years ago when Susan was born."
Lost your mind when I was born.
We
Blames a lot.
We had a lot of good times, and some rather sad times. But we were stationed, Speed had 5 sisters, 2 of whom married men who were in the military. I mean, they didn't just serve you in World War II, they were in military for
Careers.
and we happened to live not too far off of 75 and 41, so anybody going from north to south could conveniently stop in Marietta, and we were just right off. So we had a lot of company, and it was great. And I've seen the day when every couch was filled and every bed, and there were some sleeping bags on the floor and this kind of thing. And then got down to be just one, and it was so lonesome around here. having had the lifestyle that we had, and we're grateful to have had. But there's so many things that pop up, because when we think about the early days, we think about Judd, the dog of whom we have spoken.
He was kind of a boxer mix.
We called him half boxer and half idiot, so.
Especially after Dad hit with the clippers.
Yeah. But we, as I say, we considered, we actually bought some property, and I've been thankful every day of my life that we didn't build out there. But it served its purpose, and we considered many other places and other houses, but somehow we just came back to this one.
And I'm very, very grateful you did. Because I never would have met you if you moved.
What was
If
that?
you would have moved, I never would have met you, so I'm
That's
very
right.
glad that you've
That's
stayed
so
here.
true. That's very true.
Yeah.
But I've just been glad that we didn't move. I mean, the girls went down to the little neighborhood August school, and they could walk to school, as I remember. We usually were
We
running
had to have a
late.
written,
Yes, we
written
got to put
permission to
them
ride
on.
our bikes.
But
Oh, how times have changed.
Changes.
But we also had about, I guess, since we were born, probably 15 cats?
Oh,
And we have the pet cemetery right on this
Cemetery's
little,
out on that side.
little side.
Yeah.
We buried all, it's
Poor
pet
Ivy.
cemetery.
Cats
Poor
and
Ivy.
birds and fish.
Yeah,
Warn somebody to buy some.
Hamsters, a lot of hamsters.
The cats
it's very
that stand
fertile
and
ground
turn
down
and-
there.
Very fertile.
yes, we had a series of cats that began one night when Speed and I had gone somewhere and came in.
Surprises at the door is the name of this.
Surprises at the door, we were
Yeah.
trying to think of the surprises.
The babysitter was sitting there with this little, looked like a white rat, and she said, "Mr. Steve," that was one of Speed's relatives, came up and brought this little kitten. He thought the girls would like it, which translated meant that his girlfriend's cat had kittens. He was trying to get rid of them, and he took one and decided to bring it over here, Well, it turned out to be a beautiful Siamese, and at that time, the nephew was working at something called the Glass Rock Company, I think.
Rocky. That's what it is.
What? Glass Rock. Well, anyway,
Sounds good.
we named him Glass Rock and decided that was too much, so we called him Rocky.
Never heard glass
And
rock.
Rocky turned out to be a beautiful Siamese, and he
He sired many.
He was the stud of the neighborhood.
But
Rocky
one
1, 2,
or
3,
two
4,
on
5.
purpose, because people had female Siamese that they wanted to breed with this cat. So anyhow, we took the pick of the litter, and so once Rocky got killed, and we had the next Rocky, and he was Rocky 2, or we call him
We had
Rocky
RJ.
RJ,
Rocky Jr.
or Rocky 2. And then the third one, and they just end up
Just
being Rocky. But we had about 4 Rockies.
Rockies.
And,
The only cat to have a movie made after.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
Three
Would've
minutes.
been the same.
And I used to babysit in high school for the East Towns,
Yeah.
lived over on Frere Drive, and they had Siamese cats, and one of them's name was BB, and I happened to mention to them one time, and I said, well, BB, that's my aunt's name, and they went, well, yeah, we named her after her because Rocky sired, you know, blah, 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 blah.
yeah, I would
So
have
she got a cat named after her.
I would have calls from neighbors saying, oh, your cat was here last night. I said, oh, really? And,
Did you feed it?
pretty soon I would have a kitten at the door.
This must be yours.
But we survived.
Just wonder whatever happened to BB though, she did.
I don't know whatever happened before.
They're all up there together.
They
Do you have a memory?
had a crowd
I
of.
do.
All
I
right.
do.
Okay, Katie's got one.
Well, you know you're going to hiss at me because I'm going to say first and foremost that I am so honored to be living next to Bibi. And I've said this ever since I moved into Cindy's house 13 years ago. But my husband and I came to Marietta 46 years ago, and it was Conley and Sylvia Ingram were our mentors. And the first thing Sylvia did was to introduce me to Bibi. So when I moved in, some 32 years later, I was really honored. And it's an example of that. People say, well, where do you live on Seminole? And I'll say, next door to Bibi Nelson. And they say, oh, okay. They know, so it's a landmark. But another thing I'd like to say is that we are honoring this exquisite grand dame of Cherokee Heights today. But for each of you, this is a sad time too. This is a house that means a lot to each of you. It's not just Bibi's house, and that's a testimony to how generous she and Connie and Susan and Dr. Matters, bless his heart, were. So once again, I'm honored to be here and honored to have been so graciously accepted as a member.
Well,
of the
it's,
family.
if we tried, I don't think we could find any fault with our neighbors over the years.
No,
I'm glad you don't try.
no, we don't try.
But, sort of hard to say, but I need to say it, that after all these years, as all of you know, I am moving, and, it's not far away, just a mile or so up to suddenly got to be a little much for me, even though I had wonderful help, and my daughters have just been beyond wonderful. But it, pretty soon, it just wears you down. And I started this journey about 3 years ago. I told everybody I was moving to Afton Place.
That's right.
And they said, when? And I said, oh, soon. And that,
Good
then
answer.
I didn't.
Yeah.
And then the next year I said something about it. I went up, put money down and all that kind of stuff. And the second year went by, and then the third year was coming along. And through a series of events that really, if you stopped and tried to analyze it, you would almost think it was providential that these situations came up. I had held out for a 2-bedroom apartment, of which there are not many at Afton Place. One became available. I knew the lady who lived there, and she was moving to other areas at Afton Place. And someone in her family asked Connie, said, do you think your mother would be interested in Mother's condo or apartment? And Connie had heard me raving about it, and she said, oh, I think so. And when presented with the opportunity, I thought, I'm not getting any younger, and if I'm ever going to do it, I guess I better go ahead and make the decision and move. So that's sort of how this came about. And it is with a lot of love and a lot of sadness too. Not really sadness, but apprehension, I suppose is a good word, is in it, that I'm selling the house. We thought we had a buyer, but as so often happens, she had realized that this probably wasn't the move to make it this time for her. And so, she opted out of the contract, which she was entitled to do, of course. So, the house is now on the market, but I'm moving, next Friday. So, and then we will have an estate sale, and hopefully by that time, some other lucky person will have realized what a gem this is and
Certainly.
bought it. But, I am moving, and so it is a goodbye, but as I say, I'm not gonna be far away, so hope everybody will come to see me. It's
5:13.
You can count on it.
5:13.
5:13.
5:13.
And walk there.
So, anyway, I think.
Closer than Lewis Park.
That's the best.
Well, and I know Stan wants to get to the refreshments out here. But I have one question before we wrap this up.
All right.
When you moved here in 1953, what was the neighbor?
63.
Six,
No,
53.
53.
Your birthday.
53.
I didn't know how to move.
What was the neighborhood like when you
Yeah.
moved?
Okay, the neighborhood,
In round
it
terms.
was amazing how many people that my husband knew, and he was from Toccoa, Georgia, and he sat down here and he knew more people than I did. Okay, next to me, was a wonderful couple named Lucy and Elmer Browning, and they had 2 daughters,
Got a
who were
king
like
snake.
13 and 15 maybe, or something like that. And the girls, and Connie was, I guess by that time, 2 years old, and they just thought she was just somebody to play with, and so they would come over and when they would come home from school, Dottie Dunn lived directly across, and Mary, the girl that teaches.
Gant.
Can't,
Yeah.
no.
Well, Sally Finch was a Gant.
Gant, yeah, Mary
Yeah.
Gant lived on the corner, and these, but anyway, the
The Beasleys?
Brownings lived there.
Were the
And-
houses all the way down Seminole and Fair at that
Well,
point?
yeah, pretty much. They were maybe not as many,
Okay.
but there were some down. The, Kitty's house right down here was Mrs. Lynn's house. And then the next door, well, there's a little white house now between her house and the Yankses, the old Yankes house, the Foster Yanks that lived in the McNeils bought it, but they have moved, and I really don't know it's been recent, I don't know the name of the people who moved in, but that house was there. And, but there was a pasture.
Now, you were on the outskirts of Marietta at that time, weren't you? I mean, this was sort of the end of the
Yes,
town.
this, Cherokee Heights as such, Seminole Drive and Freya Drive were the 2 original streets. And they, I think, stopped right down here at the corner, but then the other houses began to build up and it was open on up. But it was, as I say, it was established in 1924, and these houses, now this house was built in 1935, we have verified that. And it was, Speed bought it for $13,400. But my realtor said,
I'll buy
don't
it
tell
for that
anybody
today."
that, because they'll think they could buy it for
$15,000.
$15,000.
It's a little up.
But this house was built by a Mrs. Hodges, Hudgens, and I met her son through just one of those weird groups of circumstances. I knew that he was president of the Georgia Medical Association, and the Georgia Medical Association and South Carolina Medical Association went together and sponsored a trip to Bermuda, and we signed up to go. And we got there, and some way during the stay over there, I thought, well, this man's name's Tom Atkins, and I have a brother-in-law named Tom Atkins, so I thought I'd search him out, and I did, and he looked at me and he said, "Did you go to Merritt High School?" I said, "Yes." And he said, anyway, we determined that I was a sophomore when he was a senior. He said, "Well, I thought you looked over me." I said, "Well, then you live in Marietta?" "Yes." "Where do you live?" "Seminole Drive." And I caught my breath and I said, "Where on Seminole Drive?" He said, 206. Well, that was what this number used to be, was 206 Seminole Drive. And I said, "Well, you know, at that point, what do you do?" And we got to talking, and he said that his mother and stepfather built this house. And he lived here for a while, so, you know, what goes around comes around. But that's,
Well, I think, and I think I speak for others in the room and others that know you, that the reason this house is so special is because of you and Speedy.
Absolutely.
Some of y'all know that Stan and I are 2/3 of 3 brothers, and I was talking to my middle brother Tom the other night, and you came up.
Oh.
Well, I wanted to be sure he knew you were moving, and he was so thankful that you'd sent him the article about his graduation class. But we were just saying what an amazingly wonderful person you are.
Oh, gosh.
Well, it's true.
Bless.
You are one of the most gracious people that I have ever known, and you have loved everybody in this room.
True.
And you and Speed have made this the place it is, and your wonderful daughters are carrying on your spirit.
Amen.
Yeah.
That same kind of love and care. And y'all are the reason that this house means so much. It's the reason that people know when you say, "I know where BB Metters," oh, we know that. That's because you love folks and they love you back.
Well, thank you, Jenny.
And your
A
Lord.
round of applause for that.
It's
Amen.
very true.
You know, it works both ways. And it's been a good 63 years. And I just hope and pray that the next owner will be as,
Well, we hope the
it
same.
will mean as much to the neighborhood as we have tried to mean.
They've got some big shoes to fill.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but that is our wish, my wish. And, I think that, it will all work out. I know, how did we know that Chris and Laura were gonna live?
I know. How do we
And,
know?
And
and
if you would have moved
Katie
sooner.
would move next door, and all these good things have happened. But I was reminiscing to myself about when we said first neighbors. As I mentioned, Elma and Lucy were just the greatest people in the world. For instance, I felt called upon, well, I wanted to, and I still had a number of friends here in Marietta, people that I had gone to school with. And of course, now we're talking about an eon ago, as Betty Siegel, and I hope y'all read the wonderful article about her. Anyway, as she would say in her speeches, she would be talking along and she'd pause and she'd say, "That was back when the earth was still cooling." And I felt that way about this, you know, when I think about all these things, it was literally when the earth was still cooling as far. But one night, one of my friends said, "Why don't you go to a circle meeting with me?" And I thought, well, okay, I would like that. And she said, "Now we meet at night because that's when the men are home and they take care of the children, so we're meeting at night." And I thought, I don't know about this. I said, and Speed said, "Oh, go on. I won't have to go to the hospital, you know, go on." So I went on. I came home about 9:30, I guess. The house, the lights were on, the doors were open. And I came in, no husband, no child. So I thought, so what happened? I looked across the driveway and here was Lucy with my little,
Babies.
well, she was 18 months old, something like that, giving her a bottle. I thought, well, those are good people. And as it turned out, Speed had to go, so he just took Connie over to Lucy with a bottle and say, here, you know.
She said, okay.
They were wonderful people. And one thing about that little house, I can't tell you how many people have been in and out of it, either living for a long time or for a short time. And every one of them have just been the nicest, kindest, dearest people. It just amazes me how all that.
You attract
That's you.
that.
What
You attract that.
I do, and I'm glad. I'm glad.
Well, that's this neighborhood too, I think.
Yeah,
The
it's the
neighborhood is
neighborhood, yeah.
like that, you know.
And because the Beasleys lived across the street, and Speed knew Bill Beasley because they had both grown up in Toccoa, Georgia.
Oh.
And their mothers were good friends, and Bill was a little bit older than Speed, but they knew each other. And then Bill Dunaway, who lived right here on the corner, had begun his drugstore business in Dallas, Georgia, when Speed was teaching school in Dallas, Georgia, before the 3
Teaching
years
French
before
and
he
coaching
went
football.
to Mexico.
Chemistry too.
And Speed said there wasn't a lot to do on Saturday night in Dallas, Georgia, so he would go down to the drugstore, hang out till they closed the drugstore. So he and Bill Dunaway were good friends, and then he buys this house, which is within the neighborhood. And it's always just been a neighborhood of friendliness and just,
Love.
well,
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, we hope your next 63 years up at Atherton Place are gonna be as happy as this 63, for sure.
thank you, Stan. Thank you so much.
Well, Stan is in charge of the move and
We
the
got it,
design. And her living room and dining room and kitchen is about as big as this room.
Well,
But
the
he's
whole,
got
the
it
whole
right.
place is about as big as
The whole place is about as big as this.
So everybody's invited to join in the moving party
Yeah.
at one time or
Down
another.
there.
So anyway, it will go on and it will be good.
Well, my experience with moving, I moved a lot when I was a kid. And the thing about moving is, it's about change.
Yeah,
It's about change. And the most difficult thing about change is that you have to make a new beginning. And
Really is different.
And it is difficult, but knowing you and knowing how tenacious you are and how focused you are and how kind you are to other people, I don't think that'll be a problem.
hope not.
I think it'll have its bumps, I'm sure it will, BB, but I think that it's never easy, especially when you're 63 years here, and you probably need to give yourself some time to do that and to accept some of the loss that you're gonna feel. But I think your positive attitude you've always had about life will carry you through and look forward as opposed to backwards as much as you can.
Michael's mother has just moved about a year ago
Yeah,
into
93.
assisted living.
93.
And so, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, I know a little bit about it, that's for sure, and it was difficult, you know, it was, I'm the oldest of 9, so she had lots of support, but even with that, and two's enough. But, these 2 wonderful daughters you have, but I think that,
Yes,
it is-
Susan with a really operated on a foot.
Not about me.
Wouldn't be
okay.
Thanksgiving without.
We'll be Thanksgiving without somebody.
That's,
Someone
that's got to be a
That's
joke
right.
that our family, somebody is
It's
on a
always
walker
true.
or a
Correct.
crutch.
Or just come out of
One
circle.
of
Julie, Mother, Susan, and
It can't
me,
be
we've done a pretty good
Thanksgiving.
job.
Oh, it can't be, something's wrong.
That's right, you Stan,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mom.
and
And
when,
Mom.
When she
when,
fell that time.
And John,
China fell on the
that's right.
cement and
That was the
ended up
Cuban crisis.
Jimmy had a broken ankle, and John had kidney stones, and Susan had foot
Everybody always
surgery.
has something, yeah.
Hip I mean, it's always something.
Isn't this exciting, y'all? I'll sit there going,
Well, what was really exciting up at Atherton Place a couple of weeks ago, we were up there looking at the place, and we come down the lobby, and every person in the lobby knew BB, and they're all going, "Oh, BB, you're moving in, you're moving in," and it was like a rock star coming in from Atherton Place. So.
I know.
But I think that's great that you do have so many friends up there. I think
That's
it's,
right.
that's
Yeah, I
fantastic.
do have. Now,
Well, I had heard they were signing a petition to get you to move there. Obviously it worked,
Well, I don't know about that, Mike, but we take what we can
You're
get.
darn right.
Very
I can't
grateful,
help
very
but
grateful
think,
for the 63 years.
and
And
particularly
you
with
should
you
be.
and Julie
I don't
being
think-
here.
I look forward to 63 more.
Well, you gotta
Whatever.
plan.
Well, you know
You
those
gotta
more
plan for it.
genes that you all
Yeah.
got.
We have the more genes, and y'all, if you
And the
don't know
matter
about the more genes, well, we had one cousin that died 101 about 2 years ago.
Cousin Rocky was 102, wasn't he?
He was up
I think
there,
he was 102.
101, 102, something like that. I guess after you get 100.
Clifton's 98 right now. He's-
Got a
Yeah.
cousin 2 years older than her.
No.
What were you gonna say, Katie?
I was gonna say that I've been listening to our speaking and lots of times, perhaps it's with Jimmy and Julie being here, I'm aware that we've talked about Providence and how providential this was and how providential the other thing was. And that's, of course, a concern that you keep up with most as your part of your personality. But I can't help but think that you will carry it with you. And
Oh
that
dear. Y'all are making me sad.
the Lord will bless you
If I fall flat on my
as
face
He
today.
has blessed us with your presence. As you go ahead, and you're right, it's not easy. But
Well, thank
Providence will be there.
So I'll try real hard not to fall flat on my face.
Please don't.
Even if you do, you know, you just go to
It'll be all right if
Stanley
you
and
do.
say,
Yeah, that's right,
Yeah,
exactly.
How do I get
I'll
through
call
this?
everybody here to come pick me up, dust me off and start
Well,
on.
Mother, if the house doesn't sell, we'll just meet back here after Thanksgiving.
we'll all come.
If the house doesn't sell, we'll just come back
Yeah.
here.
Thanksgiving,
Lots of
that's right.
We
room.
can have a real big party on that.
It'll be a homecoming.
All right, I think
All right.
what we're gonna do is I'm gonna, if it's all right, offer a brief prayer. And that'll be the end of this particular part.
Please.
There are some refreshments as I understand it, and some may need to go, and some can stay and continue telling war stories, and that'll be fine. But we wanna thank Bibi for allowing this today, and
Well,
giving us
thank
this
you,
time.
Jimmy. It means so much to me to have you all here and to have this little celebration.
Amen.
Yep.
And thank you.
Okay. Well, let me offer a prayer if I may. Gracious God, we believe that the time has come now for Bibi to leave this house, which has been her home for 63 years. And as you've heard this afternoon, we have memories of all kinds, and there are good memories and strong memories of wonderful family events and lots of food and neighborhood activities and loss along the way. And we remember Speed and his work and all he brought to this house and this community as well. And our hearts are full this day. There is some sadness here, but there's also gratitude for all that this house and this good family has meant to this neighborhood and to this town and to the people that know them. This house and this family has been a place of deep love and wonderful hospitality, and we are thankful for that. We ask your blessing on Bibi as she moves to this new place and opens up this new chapter in her life. And we ask your blessing on the new owners, whoever they will be, that they too would make this a place of hospitality and love, and that this wonderful tradition would be carried on in the days to come. We thank you for this opportunity to be together and ask your blessing now in Christ's name.
Yay.
Thank you, Jimmy. Okay, I think that's.
Some of those parties.
But we're right off.
So this time,
Things I've gotten real clear on as I've gotten older is that
Really.
I saw a lady.
Now, there's some things.
My folks used to say, I'm buying
You're
Thank you, Sue.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Mother said they just were supposed to make sure that
And
they
it
could
races,
I've heard
races
that.
down